Okay, good evening everybody, and I'm Richard Haigh from the Global Disaster Resilience Centre at the University of Huddersfield. And over the next 15 minutes or so, I'm going to talk briefly about a European disaster resilience network that was set up in 2011 and has been operational for 3 years. And I'll give a brief overview of what we've been doing over the last 3 years or so, and also giving out some detail of our roadmap for the future and where we see European education going in disaster resilience. Just to give you a little bit of context about what Android is, it was set up in 2011, funded under the European Union's lifelong learning program, which was designed to promote cooperation and innovation between higher education institutes within Europe, but also linking to other sectors as well, so very much a multi-sector project. The network was set up with 64 founding partners from across 28 different countries. So that's, I mean, the European Union itself is 28 countries, but Europe is also larger again, can cover up to 50 countries depending on how you define it. But we've got 28 countries represented, as I say, 64 different institutions. And the basic approach was to pick a range of disciplines. So we wanted to get scientists from pure to applied, hard to soft, to get a good multidisciplinary group of universities. But we also wanted to bring in other sectors, so we have some partners from the private sector, from local government, to provide a degree of balance and to ensure that we do reach out to other key stakeholders. We also identified it was important to link out to global partners, so we were able to engage with 3 global partners that would provide a degree of benchmarking or comparison with Europe. So we have partners in Australia, Canada and Sri Lanka who allow us to compare practices in Europe with other global perspectives. Now, in addition to these founding partners, we have about 300 associate member institutions who have also been involved and have joined during the course of the initial 3-year period. Now, when we set the network up in 2011, we identified various key areas of action. We need to set up infrastructure to allow the network to operate and engage, governance, management. We wanted to have some platforms to allow multi- and interdisciplinary working between the different institutions, promoting new research programs, new educational programs. We also were looking to develop some open educational resources that were produced by the network membership. And a key output was this development of a European roadmap for disaster resilience education, which brought together various other activities within the network. Just to give you a flavor for these are sort of the network in action, some key areas that were undertaken over the first 3 years. I mentioned about the multidisciplinary emphasis. You can see here this central picture. A lot of it was about bringing different scientists, different stakeholders together to identify key research priorities, new program opportunities, and so forth. We also had very strong links to UNISDR, who were a key partner in the network. Margarita Wallström actually opened our 3rd meeting of the network, and linked to that, we also engaged closely with local authorities. So we tried to form links between academic partners and local government organizations as part of the UNISDR Making Cities Resilient campaign. So this is, for example, Greater Manchester in the UK signing up as a role model city, and that was done as part of the network activities. A key aspect has also been capacity building of early career researchers, so the network membership, we've encouraged doctoral students from the various network members to come and join the network, and they've taken part in a series of doctoral schools, both virtual doctoral schools and also residential doctoral schools. So we've had 4 different doctoral schools, each with about 30 participants, which have been very successful. And that's been very much about promoting international working, but also to give doctoral students an understanding of different disciplinary perspectives. We've had very strong engagement from different actors, different stakeholders. Dan Lewis has been, for example, part of our advisory board. He's from UN Habitat. We've also, as I mentioned, had important input from our global partners. So this is Professor Janika Ruampura from who's actually Vice Provost International at the University of Calgary, who's been a key partner as well. So just gives you an idea of the types of things that we've been doing. So what have we achieved? Well, we've certainly put in place the infrastructure for the network, and I won't go into all the detail of that here. We've organized, I mentioned about the doctoral schools that we've organized. We've also organized a series of multidisciplinary conferences that have encouraged people from different disciplinary backgrounds working in disaster resilience, disaster risk reduction, coming together, and symposium and workshops as well. So we've had 3 major international conferences as part of the network. The network partners have developed a range of open educational resources during the last 3 years, and they're freely available on the project website. Survey reports that we've undertaken, recorded presentations from conferences, open procedure, for example, published through Elsevier. So we've tried to make the materials as widely available as possible. And finally, we've been looking at this educational roadmap for Europe, and that's been built upon from various projects that we've undertaken. Firstly was a survey of interdisciplinary working. We were looking for innovative practices where interdisciplinary projects have been undertaken by partners to see how effective they've been and try and capture good practices. We've looked at a survey of European higher education, which has looked at the availability of existing educational programs, bachelor's programs, master's programs, to look at the coverage across the domain. We've had a survey of European public administrators looking at the requirements. So looking at the demand side, what do they require from educational programs? And we've also had a series of research special interest groups who've been identifying some research priorities for the network to look at in the future. The idea behind these different aspects was to put together a roadmap of key issues that need to be addressed within Europe in terms of disaster resilience education. So the hope is that we can inform education policy at a European level, and that's what our funding body, the European Union, have been looking for. So I just want to pick up for the final few minutes on some of the challenges that we've identified facing higher education in Europe, and I think many of these issues also reach out on a more global level. We've seen that there's a very diverse disciplinary base, which is obviously good in one sense, lots of different expertise, but it's quite fragmented, and we've seen a great availability of new knowledge, but trying to navigate that is actually quite challenging. So on the upside, there's been growing recognition of the field and recognition of the importance of the subject within universities, particularly in educational programs. So some of the challenges we've identified in terms of research have been around the growing knowledge base that's difficult to navigate, the accessibility of that knowledge base, the insufficient link to policy and action, a lot of research taking place that doesn't actually find its way to the field, to practice. Quite often monodisciplinary studies failing to engage on a multidisciplinary or an interdisciplinary level. And also a fragmented funding and a lack of coordination, both within Europe, but also globally as well. So duplication of effort that needs to be addressed. In terms of education, there are a lot of educational programs addressing disaster resilience, disaster risk reduction subject areas, but the viability of those programs is quite variable. We've seen that a lot of the programs have been established very recently and haven't proved to be sustainable. So the quality of the existing programs is variable as well, and it's trying to identify programs that can be sustained in the long term. Also the importance of linking the programs to the needs and the interests of students. So again, being able to attract sufficient numbers, sufficient cohorts to actually make these programs viable has proven to be very challenging. Another issue has been the need to balance the theory and the field experiences. And of course, in a subject like this, it's very important that students get exposure and experience of the field, not just in terms of a theoretical perspective. So that's also proven challenging for a lot of the higher education institutes in this particular field. So some of the key issues to emerge in terms of looking forward, some of the recommendations that we've been looking at: a more problem-solving approach to research that integrates all hazards, all disciplines, so a multidisciplinary approach, a multi-stakeholder approach, and also addressing problems from the field that are actually calibrated to local context, that relate to local context. The second issue is around open access, so improving the quality of education, as well as to facilitate policy dialogue, knowledge sharing, and also capacity building. Thirdly, the need for coordination mechanisms to ensure that there isn't duplication of effort. So we need coordination across Europe, but also on a global level as well. An issue that was raised actually as well in the science and technology session that some of you may have attended yesterday was around the need for an aggregator of knowledge to improve access and focus on quality. So we have so much new science, new knowledge being created, but for people trying to navigate that, it's proving very difficult. So we need ways of aggregating that knowledge effectively. And the need for flexible and customizable programs that will actually improve professional capacities. There's obviously a need for improved professional capacities in the field, but developing suitable programs that meet their requirements is very challenging. So these are some of the issues that have emerged in the first 3 years of the network. If you're interested in more information, we've published some newsletters which can give you some more background about the network and what we've been doing. In terms of plans for the future, we're looking to use the roadmap now. Our funders are very keen to engage with us in the European Union to help influence, particularly at a European level, educational policy. But we're also keen to reach out more globally and also affect national policy agendas. We're looking at securing network funding for the future, and we've identified some potential mechanisms to achieve that within Europe. But we're also going to be, as network partners, putting forward some proposals targeting specific scientific calls, taking advantage of the new connections that have been formed through the network. And I think this is an important one really to finish on, which is linking to global higher education networks. So what we've been doing as part of a session this morning was to start to share some experiences from Europe with other regional networks, such as those in Africa, the Pacific Rim, and also Asia, looking at how we can get these regional networks to collaborate on a more global level. So that's something that we're looking at and we're going to be working at in the coming months and years. So that really concludes where we are going forward. If you'd like any further information, then please feel free to contact me at the email address or also visit the website in the future. Thank you.